Welcome back to the Winback Academy podcast, where we bring together voices from across our academy, clinicians, educators, and field experts to explore how TECAR therapy is being applied in the real world. Not just protocols, but clinical reasoning, cases, and integration into patient care. I'm your host, Dr. Ramona Von Leden. On this episode, we're sharing a replay of our Ask Me Anything on functional medicine, the Bio-Psycho-Social-TECAR approach. This discussion is led by Grant Headley and joined by special guests Alicia and Michelle Doel, who are both national board-certified health and wellness coaches and functional medicine certified health coaches. We're joined also by our Normal Academy panelists, Dr. DeFabio, Laura Ramus, Dr. Denis Donovan, Dr. Andrea Schwab, and myself as we explore how TECAR therapy can be integrated into a whole person approach to patient care. Let's get into it. Welcome, everybody, to this month's Winback Academy Ask Me Anything. I'm your host, Dr. Ramona Von Leden, and each month we bring together clinicians and educators from across our academy to discuss the real-world application of TECAR therapy in clinical practice. Today's discussion is a little out of the box, and we're really excited about it. It's focused on the Bio-Psycho-Social-TECAR approach, or functional medicine approach, and how taking a whole person perspective can influence clinical decision-making and patient outcomes. Leading today's conversation is Grant Headley, PT, joined by some special guests. We've got Alicia and Michelle Doel, both national board certified health and wellness coaches and functional medicine certified health coaches. They'll also be joined, of course, by our Normal Academy panelists, Dr. DeFabio, Laura Ramus, Denis Donovan, Andrea Schwab, and myself. We'll explore how movement, lifestyle, coaching, and TECAR therapy can work together to support better patient care. With that being said, Grant, I'll turn it over to you to get us started.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ramona. Honored to be here. And, I'm really excited about this time we have together. I have benefited from Winback myself as a patient, as a clinician, and you guys are seeing this, right?
Yep.
Okay. And what I want to say is that we know what it's like not to be listened to. As people in the world, we know what it's like to perhaps not to feel listened to as patients when we've had struggles. And what I believe the Winback Academy practices is a alternative to the standard model of care. The way that many healthcare practitioners are now being trained is in the biopsychosocial model, which we will get into. And I would like to just describe how so many aspects of how Winback Academy members and from really every member of this organization, from the staff in the warehouse to the CEO, to the biomedical engineers, to the salespeople, to the clinical team. It's really a empathetic group. It is interested in the best outcomes, the rigorous outcomes, but they want to get to know each other. They want to get to know the needs of their patients, the needs of the other people in the organization, and we have shared values. And the technology is one factor in how we make change. We're not here to be technicians using a specialized biomedical device. We are guides using technology that help us guide in a more powerful way to unlock healing potential. So with that, I will present this really like a love letter to everybody in this community for how I already see so many aspects of this community being brought out, and to remind myself and to remind, let's say, anybody that is interested in joining this movement, what this is all about. It's not just a device, it's a whole way of thinking and being with our patients, and taking care of ourselves and taking care of our communities. I want to talk about this picture, which I think was from 2024 in February, the Parker Chiropractic Seminar in Las Vegas. Um, this is in the middle of a busy convention hall with thousands of people around. And this woman had some long-term issues with scar tissue due to hysterectomy, many different abdominal surgeries, history of cancer. And, she was interested to give us a chance to care for her during this, really in a way during this sales booth in this convention. But here is Dr. JU doing a very intimate, um, powerful, gentle, hands-on treatment for her painful, tight fascia due to many, many surgeries and a traumatic experience. And here's Dr. Tucker. The reason that I'm here with you today, he connected me with Winback. There's the technology that's in the hands of Dr. J, and there's the patient who is very much a part of this session. And here's Dr. Tucker, who is engaged in this very warm, um, curious conversation with this patient. And this to me exemplifies, this image exemplifies to me what we're talking about, where the treatment and the patient's belief and the patient's story, it's all important. We are, what the biopsychosocial model is eh, the treatment has to take into account the patient's story, their role in their family, their work, their society, just as much as the biomedical factors that might have led up to their injury in terms of the disease, the injury, the tissue damage, the surgeries, all these other pieces that I think many times when we are making our notes, we are focused on the biomedical aspects. However, there's other elements to the story as well that either compound the problem or help to unlock the solution or could be the solution. And it requires a multidisciplinary approach to and really the human element to bring all of that out. So the agenda today is not to instruct, but I think to remind us of the fact that we're human beings, uh, helping people in our community, for all the things that we focus on the biomedical aspects, we remind ourselves of all the good that we're doing on the other realms as well. Um, and if we encourage each other to look for those elements in our community that are already present and just emphasize those other two, perhaps some people might call them the softer side, but they're just as important. And we'll look at some patient cases. And I've brought two of my wonderful colleagues in the functional medicine health coaching realm that we work together with many patient cases. They've had a huge impact on my personal health, and I trust them with the care of my patients. And so we'll share a little bit about how we put this into practice in our community in Oregon. So at Creighton University in Omaha, where I did my training for DPT school, the whole program was organized around this biopsychosocial model, which is fairly new, 1977. The physician and psychiatrist George Engel proposed this idea that the biological, psychological, and social factors must be understood together as one interacting system to explain and treat illness. And this aspect where these pieces, they're constantly looping on one another. And a lot of opportunities, let's say if we each could think about a case where started out a pretty standard case. We thought we were going to help that person, but they didn't make the progress we expected. Um, what were some of those factors that maybe we didn't screen for biomedically, or maybe we didn't ask them deep enough about their story, and perhaps that a referral to another, say, somatic therapist or another person that's involved in more of these softer sides could have been a key collaborator in our case. And so looking for those opportunities either to bring on outside help or to bring more of our own human elements into and more of that empathetic process to understand the patient's story in our own sessions and help that compound the therapy. So before I'm going to say the Western medical and therapy schools started taking in this work, other cultures were practicing this, using music alongside medicine, sensory therapies to help to cure people, using flowing water as a way to change the aura or the feel of the atmosphere. I mean, how many times do we go to a place with a water feature and we know, wow, this place is really beautiful. That water feature adds something that's beautiful to that place that makes it feel healing. What is that? Is it just a nice thing, or does it have something real that we could study on our left brain way of thinking that actually is doing something? Also, scent, aromatherapy in different cultures. This is important. And so many of our biomedical places that don't smell good or they smell like harsh chemicals, or there's not a conscious element at all about the scent of our therapy spaces. That is perhaps these aspects are things that we could bring into our therapy and medical centers as ways to compound what we do with the patient. So just presenting this slide here, which waiting room would you rather be in? And mind you, the picture on the left was in medieval Ottoman Empire. And here this is 2012, our emergency room waiting room. Which one do you think that you could heal better in or get cared for your disease in?
I mean, I definitely think it looks more enjoyable to be in the one on the left. Some
Hmm.
beautiful things for visually, it's more stunning, better natural light.
Hmm. Yeah. And these are things that some of our newer health spas they're taking into account. And these are things that people were aware of and paying attention to. This building on the left still exists today. We can go visit it. And this is a health center, a publicly funded health center that was paid for by community members through donations. Um, and it was part of the city. And some of the sanitariums, say like here in upstate New York, to help people heal from tuberculosis, those were outside the city. So there's in our culture this separation between um, the being in society, we've got to deal with kind of the rough and tumble and the toxins, but to get well, we have to go outside our society to the country, to a spa to get well, or for only some of us that's available. Whereas other cultures, they integrate it and they keep people who are sick, they keep them in the community to take care of them. And this is, I think, now that this term biopsychosocial, this is becoming more in awareness over these past few decades for us. Um, so here is the just three elements: the bio, the mechanistic, the measurable, the physiological, our tissues, nerves, cells, the psychological, the belief that the person has about what their body's capable of. If it's positive, that positive belief is real. If they have a negative belief about their healing potential, then likely, that will take its course downwards, perhaps. And social, um, how their role in their family, their community, their work, how if a person has an injury and it is putting them under financial pressure to pay for somebody to treat their issue, is that compounding the injury, the disease? Or if they feel well supported by their family to get help, by their workplace to say, okay, we have the disability insurance, or the company, I have experience with a company that pays for their workers to come get care. And that support helps the worker get better faster. And so these are solutions that they might not be widespread, but they do happen. And these are things that we should encourage in our communities and open up these ideas. Okay, so let's take a break from me talking, and let's bring my colleagues and friends in to share about how we put this into practice in our community.
Thank you, Grant. Let me pull up our slide deck here. Okay,
looks good, Michelle.
can you see it?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So I know Alicia and I both appreciate you speaking on especially the psychological and the social component of it, because it is so beautifully synergistic. And although as functional medicine health coaches, we do focus a little bit on the biological, we send our clients to get their labs drawn. We also, they're wearing continuous glucose monitors, like the one I have on my arm. And also the nutrition component, which is central to a healthy metabolism. And so we do cover the biological, but really, as health coaches, our training and our focus and our passion lies around the psychological and the social aspect of this model. So what we'd like to do right now is just to briefly take you through some of those components and what they look like when we're working with clients, or what they could look like when you are working with patients. Okay, so starting with motivational interviewing, it is the foundation of health coaching, and it is an evidence-based way of communicating with your client to help them discover their own motivation for change rather than being told what to do. I think we can all appreciate that, right? When we arrive at the decision on our own, it's a little bit more impactful than feeling like we're told what to do. So the key is looking at the situation, the person sitting across from you, as a partnership, and honoring their autonomy and letting go as health coaches or practitioners of that writing reflex, and having compassion and drawing out the patient's own motivation. And so how do we do that with our clients?
And so, in the spirit of motivational interviewing, which is that, right, as Michelle just stated, that partnership, that evocation, the compassion, it's really about one thing. And that's the motivation has to come from the client, not from the clinician or from the coach. And so, we don't supply the reasons, we are like drawing them out. And before we ever get into any sort of, stages of change or the, habit mechanics, this is where we start. Uncovering the client's personal and deeper why. Why is optimal health important to them? And it's really that why that is going to be the piece that holds them up when motivation dips. And it will, it always does. And I'm sure all of you as practitioners have experienced this when they're, initially really compliant with their, at-home exercises, and then all of a sudden they're not. So if you can steer them back to their why, that North Star, that's going to ground them to something deeper and more profound.
And so one of the main focuses then is the mindset. And we like to start with understanding the psychology of change, because change is not linear, like we all know. And we get so excited about coming in and saying, hey, I've got this goal, I'm going to set it. or I just started this therapy. I'm going to get these exercises done every day. I can't wait to be back to, practicing my athletic skill again. But we know that it ebbs and flows. And when we help our clients understand that typically we are moving through in a nonlinear manner the contemplation and the planning and the action, like thinking of it as a figure eight and looking more like this dip and dive down here at the bottom of this slide. Then what happens is, and help them understand, like, this maintenance stage can happen in one day, it can happen in a decade. And so when they can wrap their minds around that, they can see their progress when they feel like they're, quote, falling off the wagon. That's not actually what's happening. What's happening is they're just moving in and out of these stages of change. And when they can shift their mindset to that, they're more likely to continue on the path of achieving that goal. The other part of that is understanding how your subconscious drives your action. So kind of what Grant was talking about, right? The stories that we tell ourselves, the beliefs that we tell ourselves. When we can understand that the decisions that we're making are based on those subconscious beliefs, and try to take the time to really wrap our minds around where those are coming from and choose the optimistic over the pessimistic, which would be the growth mindset over the fixed mindset, we're more likely again to stay on that path, right, towards maintenance. And the other piece of that is understanding that values are constantly restacking and reorganizing within every environment that we're in, like day to day, hour to hour. And when we can help our clients understand that, then they can understand that just because they're prioritizing one value in the moment over another one doesn't mean that they've given up, and that you can in fact prioritize two values at the same time.
Okay, so the values and mindset concept that Michelle just went through, they're really important because that's what sets the stage for behavior change, but they alone are not what creates change. And so what actually drives change is repetition. And that's where we cover the concept of the habit cycle. That's where this comes in. And there's always three components to a habit cycle. There's the cue, which that's going to be the trigger that initiates the action, which is going to be the behavior in response to the cue, and the reward, which is the positive outcome or sense of satisfaction. And that reward is what keeps that habit cycle churning. And so whether your patient or a client wants to make an alteration and incorporate a positive habit, or get rid of one that is no longer serving them, they're going to want to make an alteration somewhere within this habit cycle. And the real power of understanding and incorporating the habit cycle is that a client doesn't need to feel like they have to overhaul their whole life to start making change. And here is why those small alterations work. Every time a client, makes a change in that cue, action, or reward part of the habit cycle, they're not just tweaking their behavior, they are literally rewiring the brain. And I'm sure many of you have heard of this concept, neuroplasticity. And so we coach to this concept as well, because part of having a growth mindset is belief in their own neuroplasticity, a belief that they can change. And so instilling that small, consistent habits win the race, more so than these like sporadic bursts of motivation. We all are familiar with that. That happens every New Year's Day. Okay, so if the brain changes through repetition, then what a client repeats matters more than what they state or what they're hoping for. And that right there is the distinction between outcome goals, sort of that end result, and the behavior goals. And it's those behavior goals that are what I like to refer to as the micro habit behaviors, that they bridge the gap between where the client currently is and where they want to be. And, focusing on the little realistic, approachable steps, that's what's going to help the client or your patient feel successful versus chasing what can tend to feel like an unattainable outcome.
And anyone who has ever tried to drive lasting change understands that it does not come without stress. And so here we talk about reframing the stress that comes with change. And when we look at stress as connected to our values and something that can enhance our lives, then the studies show that the physiological effects of that stress don't necessarily go away, but they are diminished. And then the new mindset is linked to better outcomes. So we have our clients scale their stress and decide which direction they want to choose to go. The physiological effects aren't really there on like the 1 to 4. But once you get to 5 and 6, that's when you start to feel that stress. And that's when you get to look at this is, am I going to go left towards this is threatening, or am I going to go right, that this is enhancing, this is challenging, this aligns with my values. I can look at this as exciting. I can name people who can support me. And that I've even had experiences like this before. And so what we find is when we can get them to go right instead of left, again, they're more likely to achieve those outcome goals.
Okay, and so we just sort of presented to you in a rapid fire fashion, sort of a crash course in this, coaching methodology. So we, hit quickly on motivational interviewing, stages of change, habit cycle, value stacking. But all of this, of course, has a much deeper body of research and training behind it. So we've pulled together a list here for you of resources. If you want to, explore further and incorporate it into your practice. I do want to draw you to the last few bullet points, because we would, of course, love for you to consider Michelle and I as a resource to your own practice. We have options for both referring your patients directly as well as a practitioner training model if you're interested in incorporating a CGM guided metabolic education, into, what you're already offering to your practice. So that, I think, sums it up for us.
Ladies, that was really, really cool. Don DeFabio here. Back in the day, Hans Selye used to talk about eustress and de-stress, or distress, excuse me, eustress and distress, because everything in our life is a stressor. Is that syntax still appropriate? Is it still used, or is it just, where it started and not where it is?
No, it's definitely still used. I think we
Absolutely.
hear that a lot in health coaching. It's just nowadays the idea, because the idea is that stress is never going to go away if we can look at it as not even good stress and bad stress, but just reframing what's in front of us.
Mhm.
Again, that's why Selye used the term stressor and not the word stress. That was his whole theory, to
Yes.
get away
Yeah.
from that connotation of it's good, it's bad. It's that, no, you have a stressor. And again, then does it go left or right on your graph? So,
Exactly.
again, same information repackaged. I loved it.
Right?
I've
Oh, thank
copied
you.
several slides. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and Don, I think you do a great job in your practice of offering other things, these lifestyle factors, what you're eating, what you're bringing into the home, all these things that contribute to that stress. So, from each of our providers that are on this panel today, I think we all have a different approach to how we work the patients to help them, to support them outside of the clinic, right? It's no longer like you're just coming in here to see people for that time in the clinic. It's always what's going on outside of this. What are things that you can be supporting and helping them with? So I'd be curious to throw it to the panel to hear some of the things that you find are uniquely working for your patients.
Ramona, Andrea Schwab here, we work in a integrative setting. So we have naturopathic doctors, coaches, health coaches. So very similar, setup to Alicia and to Grant and Michelle. We want to make sure that we treat the entire person. And so sometimes when it comes to stress, we take the approach of building a little bit more resiliency in the face of stress, whatever that may be. So if it's something that's environmental, something that is emotional, for example, we want to make sure that the body is optimized from a nutrition standpoint, from a sleep standpoint, working on things like HRV, obviously getting treated through TECAR and managing orthopedic concerns. So those are all things that just a small snippet of the way that we currently manage our patients at Stark. It's because we know that orthopedic health goes far beyond just like the tissue that we're healing. very much like Grant said in the beginning, I think many of us can probably tell a story where we were on the receiving end, not only as like practitioners, but also as patients at one point, where we felt like maybe the person on the other end wasn't really understanding, the things that we had to deal with when it came to a health condition. So I think, just from our perspective, we treat very holistically in the same manner that these three do. So I think it's amazing what you guys are doing out there.
Yeah, Andrea, I know that you guys do that at Stark where you have these programs, and I would love to hear Grant and Alicia and Michelle a little bit more about what the kind of program that you guys have come up with really is, because I think that's the kind of model that we're moving towards in these higher end practices and these more personalized medicine practices is bringing in those other aspects that wouldn't traditionally be there if you're just coming in because you say you're coming in because you have an injury or you're not feeling well. There's a whole lot of other things that you can be addressing and you can be doing to make every other aspect of your life better and feel better every day.
Ramona, let me throw one in from I
Let's
think this is
go.
really this is really
All
interesting
right.
because as a coming from the women's professional and professional sports, this has been a piece of our puzzle for quite a while. And when people come to an outpatient clinic or they come to our practices, they want to be treated like a pro athlete, right? And it's so great to see these parts being now looked at with everyone, not just professional athletes. Because we think about the load on every athlete, and every athlete gets monitored every day in the first place. And one of the biggest things that we have found in stressor, in this stress piece of it, is not there's the load. It's how many jumps they do, how many with their acceleration, deceleration on this workout on the court. But it is how do you feel today? It is that psychological part that is just as important in our professional athletes as all of those other numbers and force production and all those things that we're looking at. So it's amazing to see this all being laid out to the, I don't want to say average, but everyone in the world today, not just professional athletes.
Love that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Laura, thank you so much for adding that because I think that's what we're seeing a lot of is these ways that we were approaching maybe sort of the professional athletes are now trickling down and becoming more common within the general population, which is great because we all have the same health needs, whether or not you're stepping out as a professional athlete or whether you're just getting out to run around with your kids.
Mm-hmm. If I could say something for a moment on that, on the athlete front, I work with a
Please.
lot of teenage athletes. It's actually my specialty. It's what I am really passionate about. And yes, they're coming to me for nutrition and things like that. But these young little people are very stressed, and so it is a lot of mindset work. It's a lot of working with the subconscious. It's a lot of changing that mindset from fixed to growth and empowering them and believing in themselves. And then their whole body changes when they're out on the court or out on the dance floor or out in the pool because they've built that self-confidence. And I love being able to be a part of that at a young age because if we can instill that at a younger age, then what does that mean for them as humans as they're in their 20s and their 30s and so on and so forth?
Michelle, can you play that video from the gym?
Yes.
I want to show people what it looks like on a 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning.
Is it the one with where you are working with the gentleman boxing?
Play the other one I just sent you about it. Yeah, play the other one I just sent you.
Okay, just a second. Okay, this one right here. Okay, got it. Let me share my screen. I can share it so I'm not. Just a second. Okay. Stop here. Sorry. Oh, that's my hand. Oh, here it is. Okay.
So I sped this up a little bit. There's strengthening and conditioning happening for young athletes.
That's what that does, yeah.
And now this is not planned, by the way.
She said that really helps.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll let this play out and then I'll comment there on that conversation. So here we want people to stay after their workout, talk to each other, have coffee, have snacks, make sure they get hydration and protein before they leave. And there's music playing here. It's like a daytime nightclub
It is.
for health, okay? And this is
I like
Project 360, where this is like our little community gym. And some hours a day super pack, there's golf sim, and here's little world headquarters for Body Listener in the back,
love it.
where we've got the Winback is the star and getting ready for a Care Plus session. So I had my Meta glasses on coming back from a run, and I was like, you know what? I want to see what happens when I walk in. And those ladies that I stopped to talk to that was a lady with my colleague who's a strength and conditioning specialist. And that lady, I just happened to come in and she's like, "What? Tell me about this machine I'm hearing about." And that happens all the time in our community. So my clinic is in the back of a gym, a community center where people are already gathered. So if somebody is considering a hip replacement, they don't have to, seek me out. I'm there. Their friends are talking about their own positive experiences. And so those barriers to getting care don't exist the way that we have it set up. So we're inverting the hierarchy where healthcare is actually inside of places that people want to be anyway. And that right there is like my little qualitative research. And so much that happens so much that I can't work out at the gym because that would happen. That happens constantly. So I built a gym at my house so that I can actually work out. Michelle, can you play the other video of Evergreen Factor? What happens over there?
Yes. Oh,
Okay, so that's a 76-year-old man. Okay.
20 times.
And we're doing Care Plus, yoga, and balance training.
Like free weight,
This is magnetism pre-treatment. This is oxygenating the system pre-treatment on a bicycle. Then we get in red light to downtrain the parasympathetic system to get the patient ready for therapy.
Those are great videos, Grant. Especially
Yeah.
liked you hanging out on the
Yeah.
like sun.
Right.
100%.
So,
What setting did you have Grant, in the Care
Oh,
Plus?
oh,
While you were
for my gentleman, probably the rehab setting. And then
Awesome.
here is Winback inside of the wellness spa. So where we do our physical therapy. Okay, this gentleman, I'll tell you about him in a second when this is over. But take a look at that calf, okay? So this little thing at the end here. Let's see, did we show the Vemi?
We did.
Oh, we
Vemi.
did. Okay.
Yeah, at the very beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to play this or not, Grant?
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
So let me bring it back to my slides here. I'll say one thing about the gentleman on the table with the calf issue I was working on with Winback. Let me get back on my slides if I can. So he was working with his trainer. You guys are seeing my slides, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he was working out with his trainer. I was about ready to pack up and leave for the day. And his trainer, Marlon, comes in and says, "I have a problem. I need you to come and help me with my patient." So I go out there, and the gentleman is sitting down, and I start talking to him. He had a calf strain, perhaps. He couldn't walk. Okay. He is an athletic 50-year-old cannot walk on that leg, cannot bear weight. So we carry him back to the treatment room, and we go through as much as we can. We have a good conversation. He can't tolerate very, very little weight bearing at all, and I would say probably had a partial rupture. We start doing the most gentle Winback on his posterior chain, from the Achilles, the plantar fascia, all the way up, have that energy running up his hamstring. The ground is on the hamstring, okay? So the care starts inside the gym where he already was. And the instructions after that session were, you're going to cancel your trip tomorrow to LA. You can't walk through the airport, maybe with a boot, maybe with a scooter, but you've got a big trip coming up with your family, with your 2 young kids under 5 years old. How are you going to do this? This is a big deal. We're listening to you. We want you to get better as fast as you can. So we did the treatment. We say, try not to take a cold shower after this treatment. Try not to take NSAIDs at all, because it's going to tamp down the efficacy of the treatment. Perhaps the patient feels listened to on multiple fronts. And that's Monday. Wednesday comes back. He's walking in a boot. Whereas we had to carry the gentleman back to his office, okay? Like a block away. He couldn't walk. Day 2, he can walk in a boot. On Friday, we started on Monday, he walks in and says, I'm good to travel with my family tomorrow, carrying all the strollers, all the car seats, all the stuff you guys know, okay? And, the one unfortunate part is that I get a text from him saying to his trainer and to me, Grant's a genius. Okay, that's the one disappointment I have, because the genius is in his healing capacity that was unlocked, not my therapy. And that's what we are trying to open up that conversation with, how we speak about the treatments that we're doing. It's unlocking the healing capacity. Yes, the Winback is helping us to listen. It's helping us to bring to this moment the belief, all those things that Alicia and Michelle discussed. We want to remind the patient that they have a positive ability to heal. So all of those positive things in their belief system, we want to upregulate. And that's what Winback does, in addition to the biomedical factors. And the fact that we have therapy inside the gym and the wellness spa, it's not separated. It's part of their friend group. It's part of the cool thing to do. Everyone's doing it. Everyone is, it's okay to be vulnerable, to get injured, to get sick. It's okay. We got you. That's what we're trying to do with this model of care. When I was starting as a PT, I always wanted to own a gym. And now I'm glad I never did that, because in my case, I had a lot to learn from how, really, like, what's the culture of a gym? We want, and what I'm seeing now is, I want my therapy to be more, like these types of environments that I'm in. So my patient that had the calf issue, he felt the pain go down immediately within a few minutes. He felt his function and range of motion increase, where a couple minutes before he couldn't bear any weight on it. He couldn't walk. He could barely move it. And that enhanced his self-belief that yes, he can heal, and he's got help. He's got support, and he's not going to need to cancel his family trip. He's going to feel like he can do it. One other thing I'll say on this slide is, this wraparound effect. No gatekeeping. It's sharing. It's collaboration between different professionals. It's an abundant mindset. It's the physical therapist. I'm not trying to pretend to be a strength and conditioning coach. but I learn from them, of course, and incorporate their principles. I'm not trying to, of course, I enjoy talking about nutrition and the importance of, being aware of blood sugar and insulin, but I don't need to pretend to be an expert in that field. I can refer to my friends Alicia and Michelle, and on down the line to my somatic therapist, my psychotherapist, um, which I'll speak later on about my client who had a positive experience with PTSD. Here, okay, two of the rock stars of the Winback world. Christophe Bouet on the left, the biomedical engineer, and the one and only Frederick Delacour. Okay, these gentlemen, to me, every time I am with them in person, I just get a charge of energy. They are constantly thinking about all these aspects. They're thinking about innovating on the biomedical front. They're thinking about innovating on the patient experience, thinking about the clinician and how all three can come up together. They're never separate. They're always together. And this was at this picture I took at our summit back in March. And those experiences when you're in a room with like-minded professionals on the on every level, on every personal level, on every there is so inspiring. And this is what I just want to remind us all. Anytime that one of us is having a low day, call one of us up. We're on WhatsApp, we're on text, on Instagram. It's amazing to always have support. We already showed a bit of what that is. Something about my vision for the gym is using the membership and having really everybody, if they would be interested, to be constantly managed or constantly have the help and support of a membership in the, let's say, in the sphere of this wraparound care, where everyone knows what they're working on, everyone knows who is the point person for that project, whether it's injury, whether it is strength and conditioning, whether it's athletic training for pre and post competition, massage therapy, and everyone in the gym has their guide. And this is this vision for having the hierarchy of healthcare, where you have the authority at the top and the professionals, between, let's say, perhaps the medical doctor and then the patient, and then the medical doctor decides which professional that person might need to see next. Whereas what the vision here is that, similar to what Andrea has set up, is that there's no barriers there, and the patient is really at the center, and you have the multidisciplinary team shoring up for what's the biggest priority to focus on between now and the next 6 weeks or 6 months. And so how we work together is the patient is working out on a weekly or daily basis with their strength and conditioning professional and their massage therapist. And if they have an injury, they see the athletic trainer and the physical therapist. And then likewise, if they have a holistic issue where nutrition and mindset and behavior change in it is an issue, let's talk to Alicia and Michelle with their expertise in behavior change, so that we're not just speaking to what they need, we're actually filling that gap and being guides for that person every step of the way. And again, this is this idea of etiosenescence, performance aging, is what we talked about at the summit, which is giving me a huge inspiration today and forward. And my client in the video, who was, he's trying to knock my head off in our little boxing session. That is a new that's a new person. That's a new way to age. That gentleman had a spinal fusion not quite 10 months ago. And he played pickleball for his first time a couple weeks ago. And he didn't like that boxing session was spurred on by he saw a video of how he was playing pickleball the other day, and he said that he doesn't like how he's moving. So we went from doing all of the standard rehabilitation pieces and gentle yoga. I said, okay, let's experiment with some multi-directional explosive movements. Let's get you ready for playing pickleball how you want to play pickleball. And so that's what that looks like. Yeah, Winback is this facilitator because whether we're trying to help exercise be more effective, whether we're having our hands-on work feel gentler, upregulate everything the patient feels about their healing, and some of these very difficult to treat disorders, pelvic floor and digestive health, reproductive sexual health, and chronic pain. These are all things where people can get really stuck. And having the Winback there as a listening aid and as something that helps the patient feel like they can heal from this thing that many other, they've seen many practitioners and they've made the decision to get better. I was talking to a client on the phone yesterday, and he's been trying for 4 years to find help for his pelvic floor disorder, but he's never been referred to pelvic floor physical therapy. And so when they might make a positive decision to change, but what are the resources available in that step? Are they going to, from that point forward, make steps towards healing, or are they going to take a detour and perhaps have that issue get chronic for a while? That's why our role in the community is so important. And as much as we do, there's always more education outreach that we can do and increase our connections to other healthcare practitioners. So, little slide about what we saw in that video with the red light and everything. Okay, so these pieces in the Evergreen Factor Health Spa, we're not selling peak experience. We are exposing people to the healing that's in nature that we have just lost touch with, many of us. It's free, it's available outside every day. But what these, I'll call them, high-end energy therapies, and Winback is part of that. What it does is it reminds the person that, the energy that they surround themselves with, the things that they touch, the habits that they have, they matter for their healing. So the PEMF mat, that's grounding, okay? That clears the body and gets it ready for our session, our Winback, our physical therapy session. If someone comes in off a stressful day of work, they're probably still answering some texts and emails before they get ready to lay it on the table. What if they lay on the PEMF mat first to ground themselves? And the free part about that is standing in the grass in the yard first thing in the morning or at lunchtime. So the next thing that you saw was the oxygen mask on while the person's cycling, and that is saturating the cells with oxygen, which increases their the permeability of the cell to nutrients coming in, to toxins coming out. Red light. Dr. Tucker, was big on this for me and really exposed this to me years ago. He lives on the beach to get that red light every single morning and every single night. And what that does, it drops our body into parasympathetic, among other things. But doing red light right before our Winback session, it gets the person ready for therapy. Then we do our treatments where we put the Winback on our hands-on therapy, on the Care Plus sessions, during our yoga, our therapeutic exercise, so that the patient has a they tap into the parts of their body that are tight, that are dysfunctional, and we get to use those areas in a way that feels different than they have been if they have a acute or chronic injury. We're trying to show them this is their body. It's right there if we just unlock some of the pieces that are keeping them stuck. Then after the Winback session, they go right to the Vemi bed, which is vibrating their body at this key 435 hertz frequency that again helps them integrate the session. What that's doing is instead of the person leaving the session going out into traffic, it is encouraging them to stay, linger, integrate the work, the blood flow, the down regulation on their body so that the effects have a chance to settle in. And the parasympathetic nervous system is key for what we do. If we can remind our neuroendocrine system, remind it that we can find relaxation anytime with breathing, with meditation, with yoga, just with stillness. These technologies are there to take the person that's lost touch with that and remind them that the healing is right there. It's accessible, it's free to everybody, it's in nature. We just need to tap into it. Yeah. PEMF mat, ground ourselves, red light panel, watch the sunrise, and make sure that we're breathing all the time. And yeah, what do you think? What do you guys want to talk about from there?
I just think that was over the top, Grant, but what I really appreciate is the fact that even though you showed a calf Winback treatment, Winback opens up the whole body, opens up circulation, breaks down fascial densifications. TECAR is the game changer when it comes to body work. And then you stack all those other things on it, it just makes it better. And you mentioned it in the beginning, you showed a calf, you talked a little bit about it, but I think that's what everybody's got to grasp. That's our game changer is TECAR therapy because it impacts every condition, every cell, every tissue, everything in a positive way.
Yeah.
So good job, man.
If I can just bother everyone with one more slide. This brings it home as to why I have my practice in a gym and a wellness spa. And this patient that really exemplifies this is a gentleman that is suffering from PTSD from pretty significant life history of sexual abuse as a young adult. And he's been working with a psychotherapist that focuses on somatic therapy. And he has a lot of insight as to where he wants to be on the emotional level. And he sought me out for my expertise in pelvic floor. And to have anybody do therapy on an area of the body that has been traumatized is a big undertaking. It's very sensitive, and we need to treat it seriously. Treating this person along this biopsychosocial model has been crucial. It's really we need to listen to the story. We need to understand exactly some of the things that he was experiencing in his trauma. We need to get to understand what his support system is now, how he has been hurt by the medical system in the past. Because he was abused by his medical practitioner. So how is this person going to come to me for help? How am I going to make sure that I don't trigger his trauma again? And the Winback made a new experience for him of what happens when a practitioner is trying to help the body. And these other adjunct energy therapies, they get the nervous system ready for therapy. We do the therapy, and that person is, we're in constant communication about what that patient believes about what's happening, what he wants, and then the VEMI bed, that vibration therapy that happens after our session, helps the nervous system down train even further and get some deep rest and integrate the work before he goes into the car out into his world. And so that's something I encourage, more collaboration between chiropractic, physical therapy, and our psychotherapy colleagues in the community. We can be helping their clients unlock the somatic and the where the stress is stored in the body as they're doing the cognitive work. We can help them with that. So that's my final point of the day. Thank you.
Grant, I thought you did an awesome job as per usual. I think one thing that you said so beautifully was, putting the power of the healing back into the patient. I think you used the words, you're giving the patient the ability to unlock their body's healing. And I think that does so much for people's confidence. You know what I mean? It tells them that they're capable, and that, I think, translates into, other areas of their lives. So awesome job. I think that was beautifully said.
Yeah, I agree. And as you were talking in this last point, Grant, about how these energy technologies can help, um, it reminded me honestly of the treatment that you gave me when we were in Seattle. So Grant and I were recently at the AASPT conference in Seattle, and we had some time, and you gave me a treatment, and it was, you know, I think I was drooling because I was so relaxed, but I was in the middle of a conference hall. And that tells you the kind of impact that this kind of energetic modality can have on the body very quickly. Because and that's something that when patients they come in, they're in pain, you don't know their backstory. There's so much there that can really mess with them, and being able to provide them with a treatment that's going to help them and feels really good is such a good entry point, because then they very quickly gain trust.
Yeah. We've all had that from each other. All of those treatments we've had at, in the middle of random places. And that's how it works. It's like how powerful it is.
Yeah, it's so great. I came back here and was bragging about it. I was like, I was passed out, drooling on the table in the middle of a conference hall when everyone was giving presentations, because that's how quickly this downregulated my nervous system.
Wonderful.
Any other comments from our panelists before we start to wrap it up?
No, great job, Grant. Always love to hear from you, and especially in this space.
Thank you.
Time for me to move to Oregon.
All right,
Good stuff.
start to. No, it was fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this month's Winback Academy Ask Me Anything. A huge thank you to Grant, first time that you've led this year, and I think today's discussion was really great. And as well as Alicia and Michelle, who obviously had to leave us a couple minutes early, but their contributions were really excellent. Alicia was on the Ask Me Anything in the fall, so it was really nice to have her back. Dawn, Laura, Dennis, Andrea, as always, thank you for sharing your expertise and your perspectives. Andrea, I really appreciated your pieces about Stark. Ultimately, today's conversation was a great reminder that patients' outcomes are influenced by much more than the physical condition alone, and that the collaboration across these differences different disciplines, can make a very meaningful difference in the way that we care for patients. We hope everybody who's listening that we give you some new ideas and some strategies that you can begin to apply in your own practice. And thank you to everyone who joined us live and contributed a couple of questions or comments. If you're listening back on the podcast replay, we're glad you're part of the Winback Academy community. Be sure to join us next month for our AMA, which will be on using TECAR for aesthetic rehab. Our aesthetic ambassador, Dr. Jess Zabrowski, will be leading the session as we explore clinical applications, treatment strategies, and the growing role of TECAR therapy and aesthetic rehabilitation. Thank you to everybody, and we'll see you next time.